Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Off the Shelf. This is Lance Barron, president of the Atlanta Sisters in Crime chapter for the remainder of the year. And we are very excited today to have KAREN DIONNE as our guest, and our own Don Gepfer will interview her in her usual excellent style. KAREN is the USA Today and #1 internationally best-selling author of award-winning psychological suspense novels, The Marsh King's Daughter and The Wicked Sister. The Marsh King's Daughter was made into a Lionsgate major motion picture starring Daisy Ridley and Ben Mendelsohn. She's also co-founder and co-host of The Back Room, which is a series of author interviews conducted twice a month, usually on Sundays. KAREN enjoys nature photography and lives with her husband on a small lake surrounded by the forest and wolves and things in the middle of Michigan. So, Dawn, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us on this Saturday. I hope wherever you are, you're having gorgeous weather and that you can stream the Braves game because they're playing later today. And I will be working, so I want you there with me in spirit. As Lance said, we have an author with us today, somebody I'm very excited to chat with because I feel like I know KAREN. As a matter of fact, when I reached out to her, I said, we haven't met, but I feel like you're my friend. And one of the reasons I connect with KAREN so much is because of the Back Room program that she and Hank Phillippe Ryan have co-founded and they co-host together. I have mentioned it multiple times on this program, encouraging everybody to partake in some of these sessions because they really are great and it's a lot of fun. And as I tell folks, it's what I wish Off the Shelf was. It's just so professional and so pulled together, and it's very inspiring. So before we get started, as always, I encourage you to participate in this conversation. Please speak up, raise your hand, or put a question in chat. We're happy to ask it on your behalf. But with that said, let's take it away. Good morning, KAREN.
Good morning, Dawn, and everybody. Thank you so much. You know, I always think whenever I do a book event, everybody who's there, they could be doing something else, and they chose to set that aside and attend. So thank you all for doing that this morning.
And likewise, you could be doing something. Again, it's a Saturday morning, it's 10 o'clock. And I just found out that Michigan, where KAREN is in Michigan, is on Eastern time. I had no idea.
A lot of people don't realize, but we're like at the far end. And it's kind of interesting because my daughter is in Boston and it gets dark an hour earlier for her than it does for me. Sometimes we've Zoomed and I'm like, what's going on? It's dark where you are, but that's because it's such a big time zone and they're at one end and we're at the other. So yeah.
So I'm glad too, because I felt really bad. Like, oh, she's gonna have to get up early. And we were chatting about this and the fact that at one point where KAREN is in Michigan, she just recently has been able to have internet access, and I'll let her explain it much better than I can. And therefore she used to have to drive into a more civilized area in order to do things like Zoom.
Yeah, in fact, so we lived in the Detroit area and then we moved to the middle of Michigan, this house here in during the pandemic. And then that, of course, that's when Hank and I started the Back Room. So that was the real thing. You know, we had events twice a month and I had to have solid internet because especially when you have satellite internet, there's a lag. So, you know, because it takes time for what I say to travel up to the satellite and come back down again. And so in a Zoom situation, you end up talking over people. It's very awkward. And I will say, you know, so for important phone call or Zoom calls, I ended up sitting outside at a picnic table at the local library for starters. And then I had to rent a room where I could do Zoom. But backing up a little bit, before that, I had those options. And right after we moved here, the producer of the Marsh King's Daughter movie wanted to do a Zoom call with me and meet me. Well, we hadn't sold our house in Detroit yet, so I drove to Detroit 3 hours away so I could Zoom with a solid connection, because I wasn't about to have that one be chopped up and all awkward. But yes, we got fiber optic at our house last summer, and yay.
Yay. And so let's, as you said, let's go back, let's back up a little bit and let's go back in time. And this is, I usually start off this program by asking the authors to tell us their backstory. And you have a fascinating backstory that really segues nicely into what you just shared with us. So if you would, Karen, tell us about Karen Dionne, pre the Marsh King's Daughter, and what life has been like for you.
Yeah, sure, sure. So like for a lot of writers, it's been a long road, to get to where I am. I wish it was quick. It wasn't for me. I hope it's quick for all of you because, and it's not a question of paying your dues. It's just learning the craft, progressing, and so forth. So I started writing seriously in 1998, and I signed with my literary agent in 1999 for a novel that I was querying with the first draft because I didn't know anything about, how to approach agents and so forth. I even queried scam agents back at that time because I just didn't know. So my literary agent, he loved the premise, and he thought my writing was strong, and he said he thought that I could pull it off with a rewrite. So I actually rewrote the novel 3 times over 3.5 years under his direction. It was my plotting that was a mess. And so that particular novel never sold, but the next one, the one that I had started during my agent search, that one did. It's called Freezing Point. It's an environmental thriller, and Berkeley bought it. So that was super exciting. And especially when the reviews started coming in and people would talk